In today's video, we're diving into a story so chilling, no movie could ever top it. This case is packed with twists, shocking moments, and a darkness that feels almost unreal, yet every part of it is true. Let's get into it. Lucy, Caitlin, and Jane, the triplets, had everything they needed to be happy. But one of the girls got bored at some point, which was bound to end badly for her. Lucy Lee, Caitlin Lee, and Jane Lee were born in China in 1995. There were three of them. Lucy, whose real name was Yun Lu, was the oldest because she was born 5 minutes before Caitlin and Jane. Their parents chose to move to Toronto, Canada when the sisters were very young. They left the children in China for now. In fact, the triplets were raised by close family members until they were 7 years old. The girls moved in with their parents after they had already been there for a while. The triplets got a younger brother and sister when their family got back together in Canada. Their father was good at his job. He ran a driving school for Chinese newcomers. But Lucy's mom, Hong Wei, or Winnie, as her friends and family called her, was the most determined and successful. The mom's business did well. Winnie ran a company called Resbound International that managed assets. The company's main clients were Chinese Canadians. People bought life insurance plans through the business, which let them send money from abroad without having to pay taxes on it. Winnie quickly rose to fame as a businesswoman in Canada. She spoke at a number of conferences and met some of the most important people in the country. A picture of Winnie with both Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Ontario Premier Doug Ford has been found. Winnie was able to make strong connections with many members of the elite, and she finally became a very important and powerful person herself. People thought she was a multimillionaire, not just rich. The kids grew up slowly, but their mom was always busy, so they didn't get to see her very often. The businesswoman had a very busy schedule, so when she did have time for housework, she was very strict with her children and son. The mother made sure that everyone followed the rules and did well in school. Winnie wasn't mean. She just wanted all of her kids to be successful and do well in life, like she did. The girls learned from her how to be the best. They couldn't play or hang out with friends because they had to do jobs around the house. In this way, Lucy, Caitlin, Jane, and the two younger kids learned how to handle big tasks very early on. Triplets started their own charity at age 13 to help young women and kids. It was called the Canadian Youth Funding Association. There was nothing Winnie couldn't do to help her girls do well in life. They went with her to a lot of the business events she went to. She was getting them ready to take over her job at the company one day. But not every child agreed with these ideas for their lives. Lucy had a hard time understanding why her parents thought she should do great things. Winnie was very upset that she wasn't the most responsible student. So this was something that the oldest daughter and her mother often fought over. Lucy thought of herself as a nerd at school. She had fringe and braces at the time and felt like she would never fit in with her friends. In her own home, where success and knowledge were the most important things, the girl felt like she didn't quite fit in. Lucy met Oliver Carafa when she was 14 years old. Oliver was 16 years old at the time. He was 2 grades ahead of her. Brady Carafa was born in 1993 in Slovakia. When he was 8 years old, his folks moved to Canada. The family lived in Windsor at first, and then they went to Toronto. It was a normal life for the boy. People didn't think Oliver was a good guy, but they also didn't think he was a problem. He got into small problems from time to time, but most boys do that. Before we continue, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from? Whether you're watching from home, work, or on the go, drop your city or country in the comments below. It's always amazing to see how far these stories reach. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into true crime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, let's get back into the case. Lucy and Oliver met in high school and started talking to each other. They quickly became romantically involved, but it didn't last long. The boy tried to get the girl to go to bed with him, but Lucy wasn't ready for that yet. He didn't want to wait for her to grow up, so he slept with one of her friends. After such a turn of events, Lucy's high school relationship ended quickly. The triplets finished from high school, and their mother made all 3 of them go to the University of Toronto to study business. It looked like Winnie hadn't really thought about what the girls wanted for their future because she already had it all worked out. It looked like the mother didn't care what her kids wanted. She was just training new ones to take her place. The worst thing about the woman was that she made the triplets compete with each other. For instance, she said she would buy a new car for the person with the best grades. This made it hard for the sisters to get along with each other sometimes. Lucy did pretty well in college, and when she was done, she went to work for her mother in the life insurance business. That's when her problems started coming back. Lucy did her best to meet her mother's standards by trying to get big clients, but it looks like she didn't do as well as Winnie had hoped. The girl became very tense when she had to do things she wasn't good at yet. Lucy chose to take a break from her job and do some things for herself. She asked to take 2 years off from work to see the world, try new things, and figure out what she really wanted to do. This was possible because the family had enough money, so Winnie gave in and let all 3 girls try new things in life. The woman promised to pay all of their bills for 2 years and gave each of the triplets an income of a few thousand rupees every month. Lucy seemed to have been under a lot of stress her whole life, and she wanted to be just like her mother. At the same time, her parents were very nice to her. What did the Lee kids do with all their extra time? All 3 chose to become leaders on social media, which means they change people's minds and the way they act through their posts. They made accounts on a number of sites with the name Mia Triplets and started writing different things. The girls mostly saw themselves as role models. They were seen in underwear and swimsuits in many pictures. A lot of the time, they shared pictures with the hashtag #SarStriplets. This became something that made them stand out. The triplets' social media pages got bigger and more well-known. They had 60,000 fans on TikTok and 40,000 fans on another social network. Even though they weren't exactly famous, they still had a big group of people who were interested in them. There were a lot of people who followed them. As the triplets became more well-known, businesses started contacting them with offers to work together. The sisters were sent free items and asked to spread the word about them. For each post, they got paid $500 to $1,000. Because of their new way of life, one of the sisters, Caitlin, started competing in beauty pageants like Miss Toronto, Miss Canada, Miss Intercontinental Canada, and more. She won many prizes and came in second place. It helped that Caitlin Lee became famous, which made the triplets more well-known on social media. It was 2019 when Lucy Lee turned 24. Around the same time, something important happened in her life. Oliver Carafa, the same boy she had a short relationship with in high school, showed up again. He was 26 years old now. What did he do for 10 years? Carafa tried to become a model after ending high school. Photographs of him were on the websites of modeling agencies at the time, but Oliver had been in jail for most of the time since he last saw Lucy. In 2012, Oliver, then 19 years old, went drinking with his friend, David, and David's lover. They mixed different kinds of booze and got very drunk. They weren't fully able to think straight. Around 2 a.m., the lady left the friends, but the guys kept drinking a lot. When Oliver finally got outside into the fresh air, he decided he was ready to drive. It turned out, though, that he had several times the legal limit of booze in his blood. Oliver took the wheel, and David, his friend, sat in the passenger seat. They were both very drunk. Without being fully aware of what he was doing, Carafa hit the road and drove very fast down the highway. His speed was too high until something got in his way. The young man lost control because he was drunk. At full speed, he went off the road and hit a pole. It was a very bad accident. A bang like a plane crash was heard by many. The car was pretty much split in half. David's seatbelt was torn off of its mounting device, which was bad news. The passenger was thrown out of the car and hit a light. The boy died right there because his head was crushed. Because his friend was careless and reckless, David lost his life. Meanwhile, Oliver amazingly made it through the terrible crash, alive and mostly unharmed. He was only slightly hurt, even though the officials later said that nobody should have lived through that accident. He said he was in a lot of trouble and would go to jail because someone died because of him when he finally realized what had happened. That's exactly what took place. Carafa was caught and charged with killing someone while driving drunk. His parents had already gone back to Slovakia by that time, and they had to pay bail for him. Oliver was told he could not drive for 15 years and given a 5-year jail sentence in 2014. But going to jail didn't change the bad kid. He was always getting into problems, smuggling things, and hanging out with sketchy people. Oliver kept getting turned down for release because of how he behaved, so he served the whole 5 years. The parole board said Carafa was a young man who thought that society's rules didn't apply to him and had an unhealthy sense of privilege. So Oliver tried to start over with his life in 2019 after he finished his sentence. He wanted to get in touch with people from his past through social media and found the triplets page by accident. He knew right away that Lucy was his high school girlfriend. She looked very trendy and pretty now that she was a model. Carafa did want to get in touch with her. When Oliver sent Lucy a message, she was thrilled. He still wanted to be a model, which was something they had in common. He looked and seemed even more charming and good-looking than he did in school. After some thought, she agreed right away to go on a date. By their second date, the young couple's relationship had grown quickly, and Lucy moved in with Oliver. Winnie, Lucy's mother, was not happy with this choice because she really didn't like the young guy. She thought he was bad for her daughter and was sure Oliver would steer Lucy in the wrong direction. The mother was right, given what would happen next. As a way to get what she wanted, Winnie stopped giving Lucy money. She was giving the triplets a few $1,000s every month to cover their costs. She then said that she could do without help since her daughter was living with her boyfriend. Lucy had a hard time with this at first, even though she and her sisters made money from social media ads that had to be split 3 ways. The girl was also used to living in style and never having to give up anything. The problem was quickly fixed, though, when Oliver started making good money and could meet his girlfriend's needs. The only thing was that he got them in a way that wasn't fair. Carafa started a lot of shady businesses after he got out of jail. He really wanted to be an entrepreneur, a powerful businessman, and a multimillionaire. To pass the time, he did many different things, such as selling weighted blankets and shipping cars for social media ad shoots. Oliver was ready to do anything to get a lot of money, and he got it. Their new home was a 2-bedroom apartment in Toronto ready soon. Oliver had to have Lucy drive him around because he had lost his license and couldn't drive for 15 years. The girl helped him move the cars he sold and drove him to all of his business meetings. Lucy took part in all of her boyfriend's business deals. People thought that all of these businesses were breaking the law. Most likely, Carafa stole the foreign cars he brought into and out of the country. He bought them for parts, moved them, and sold them for a good profit. It's said that if you're not caught, you're not a thief. When the pandemic started in the spring of 2020, Lucy and Oliver had been dating for a year. Everyone in the world was locked down. The couple also spent some time alone at home. But then Oliver thought it would be fun to go to Slovakia to see his parents and then take a trip around Europe, even though there was a pandemic going on. And, of course, he wanted to bring Lucy with him to meet his family. They bought plane tickets, got to the airport, and tried to board. But because of pandemic rules, only Carafa could go back to Slovakia because he had dual citizenship, but Lucy couldn't because she wasn't a Slovak citizen. At the airport, they were told that Lucy could only get on the plane if she was married to Oliver. Anyone who was smart would have agreed to the rules and canceled the trip. On the other hand, Lucy and Oliver were not smart. They chose to get married online right there in the airport. There were many things that were done through Zoom during the lockdown, such as marriage paperwork. Not having talked about getting married before getting married at the airport to catch a plane was stupid and dangerous. But Lucy and Oliver did it anyway. They took several months to tour around Europe. At the end of the summer, they came back to Canada. At the same time, Carafa had plans to grow his business. It was some way that he met Tyler Pratt, and he really wanted to work with him. Oliver saw great chances in Tyler and wanted to take advantage of them, but things were not going well between them and their new friend. She was born in British Columbia and grew up in a big family. In the past, he was married and had 2 kids. Officially, Tyler played hockey. He was also an entrepreneur like Oliver and ran a company that made diamonds and a business that made supplements. In reality, though, this man was selling illegal drugs on a private level. He was a big deal, not just a street trader. Pratt was in charge of getting huge amounts of white powder from another country and selling it to lower-level dealers. Because of this, he made a lot of money. He was said to be able to sell drugs worth $1 million in a single day. Tyler had a lot of money. Pratt got a split from his wife in 2020, but he kept in touch with his kids. Even though he did bad things, people said he was a great dad. He never skipped a vacation or his kids' birthdays. He paid them a lot of attention and spent all of his free time with them. Taylor met a woman named Jordan Romano in 2020. He was about 40 years old at the time. She grew up in Ontario and met Pratt when she was about 25 years old. As a job, the woman danced beautiful women. Their relationship grew quickly. Soon, Jordan quit her job because her boyfriend paid for everything she needed. The pair lived in style with designer clothes, pricey cars, expensive trips, and other nice things. Jordan and Tyler chose to start a life together in the summer of 2020. They got engaged and planned to get married soon so they could start a real family. Tyler's main goal was to stop the criminal business, live an honest life, and turn into a law-abiding businessman. Jordan said that they just wanted to be a normal couple and get away from the bad things that come with selling drugs. But everyone has to pay for their sins at some point. And in July 2020, Pratt and Oliver Carafa were brought together by fate. Someone suggested that Tyler get in touch with Oliver when he was looking for an honest businessman among his friends to put his money in. The men planned to meet for a business dinner to learn more about each other. Carafa was a lovely person who could get people to agree with her. He talked to his new friend all night about his big plans, reassured him that his business was legal, and bragged about his accomplishments. After dinner, Oliver asked Tyler if he would like to put money into one of his new businesses. In fact, Pratt was very pleased by how far the young man had come in such a short time. He liked the idea of a real business and decided to put $170,000 into it at their first meeting, even though he had no idea what it was about. When Oliver found out that Tyler had a lot of money, he made up a business that didn't exist right then and there to get him to spend. When Carafa got home from this meeting, he told Lucy to think of a business where he could put Tyler's money to work. Oliver was thinking about different ideas when a horrible one came to mind. Carafa was from Eastern Europe, so he knew how to bring girls from that area to Canada and find clients here. That is, he wanted to use Taylor's money to fund another shady and disgusting business. He didn't think Pratt would have liked his idea. Olive told his wife what was on his mind. Luckily, Lucy was smart enough to tell her husband that this was the worst idea he had ever had and stop him from going ahead with it. Finally, Carafa chose to open a company that sold masks, goggles, and gloves for personal protection. These items were very popular during the pandemic, everything that hospital workers and regular people used during the lockdown. Oliver planned to make a lot of money by getting these popular items at a low price and then selling them for a lot more than they were worth. Carafa took his idea to Tyler and told him all the good things that would happen with the new business. It made Tyler very happy, and she thought Oliver had found gold. Pratt already thought of Carafa as his new business partner and best friend. In fact, things were not so bright. Lucy and Jordan also became friends and spent a lot of time together. The families started getting together often and going to each other's houses. Tyler was so crazy about his new partner that for his birthday he gave him pricey jewelry. The couples ate, went to dinner, and even planned a trip to Italy together. Tucker was told by Carafa that business was good and that they were selling a lot of personal safety equipment. He was making a lot of money, but he needed more to ship more goods. Because he was now an honest partner, Pratt didn't think twice about giving Oliver another $470,000. Everything was done over the phone. The two partners did not have any written agreements. The money was given without formality most of the time over dinner. Tyler didn't worry because he knew the new business was legal. He had a lot of faith in his new partner. However, nobody knew where the money went. Oliver was doing something that not even Lucy knew about. It was all she could think about. All the money was going to buying safety gear that was then sent to Europe. After a few months, Taylor began to ask things. That person asked where his share was and when he would get his money back. Oliver told his partner that the money was in Europe and would be hard to get back. It will take some time. He showed me bank records from accounts in Europe. There were 12 million in one of them. To get Tyler to agree, Carafa told him that 3 million of that money was promised for Pratt. This gave the owner some peace of mind. It would have been fine if Oliver's partner hadn't shown him fake accounts. His bank accounts did not have $12 million in them. It's still not clear where the $640,000 that Taylor gave went. Another thing that is unknown is whether the business of personal safety equipment ever existed. At least the news didn't talk about it. Oliver lost all that money at some point, that much is certain. Or maybe it was just a scam from the start. Tyler brought up the subject of profits again, no matter what happened to the money. He asked for the $3 million that Carafa had promised him. Olive didn't have that much cash, though. He was at a loss for what to do and turned to Lucy for help. To his wife, he told her that he had lost the money Pratt had given him for the business and didn't know what to do. Lucy suggested that they buy time and made a $1.5 million check out to Taylor. It was planned that this money would be taken out of Lucy's mother's bank account. The woman told her husband that Winnie would not even notice the money was stolen. Lucy thought that the fake check would make Tyler feel better and give them time to decide what to do next. As it turned out, the check was never cashed. The next step was another con. Lucy's mom, Winnie, ran an insurance business, and Lucy had worked there long enough to know how it all worked. Lucy told Pratt that her mother's business could help her get an insurance policy so that she could send money from Europe to Canada without having to pay taxes on it. Tyler and Jordan agreed to buy an insurance policy for $1.5 million, but they didn't know they were being lied to again. In fact, Lucy lied to get insurance money and kept the money her friends gave her. Lucy made things worse instead of getting out of the mess Oliver had made. It's not clear what these people wanted or what they were thinking. It was February 2021. After giving money away and not getting anything back, Taylor had had enough. He bought Lucy the insurance policy to try to get the money from Europe sent to him faster, but he still hadn't seen a dime. He saw that Oliver and Lucy were taking their time for some reason. He told his partner that things would get really bad if he didn't get the money by March 1st. Oliver became scared because he knew Tyler was doing something wrong and thought he might still be connected to dangerous people. Carafa asked Lucy for help once more. They really thought about how to get out of there for a long time. They didn't have enough cash to pay Tyler. That's when Lucy and Oliver decided they had to end it for good. After that, things got even worse. Just one day before the due date, on February 28, 2021, Carafa asked his partner and fiancé to come to a business meeting. It was said that they had a new business idea to properly grow marijuana. Oliver had even found a big building in an industrial park that would be perfect for putting his great idea into action. He drew up a business plan and told Taylor they could make a lot more money. Carafa said he had already made plans with a real estate agent, so he asked his partner to come to the meeting with him so they could talk about it together. Pratt was interested and didn't know it was all a lie. There was no agent or business plan, so he agreed to meet with them. Carafa actually lied to Tyler about the warehouse visit and did it for a much worse reason. In the morning, Oliver paid cash for a car from a friend. A white Audi Q5 was seen, and the car was not publicly linked to Carafa. Then Lucy got a SIM card that was registered to a friend of hers to hide their tracks even more. A few days before the date, Oliver and Lucy sent each other several texts in which they talked about Tyler and his fiancée, Jordan. They also talked about the specifics of the evil plan they were going to carry out on the last day of winter in their letters. They tried to encrypt their messages too. So, on February 28th, 2021, Oliver sent Tyler a message with the borrowed SIM card to let him know that he and Lucy were only 10 minutes away from the building. While this was going on, Carafa and Lee drove the white Audi to the empty hangar, turned the building around, and hid the car in a small dead end. Lucy, who was driving, wore a light-colored wig to hide her identity in case the car was caught on tape by accident. Soon after, Tyler and his fiancée, Jordan Romano, drove up to the warehouse in their Range Rover and parked behind the building, where they were meant to meet the real estate agent. And that's when the scary things began to happen. When Taylor got out of his car, he was confused because his partner had come in a strange car, and his wife Lucy was wearing a blonde wig for some reason. Carafa told Pratt about the real estate agent they were going to meet. While the guys talked near their cars, Lucy and Jordan got into the Range Rover and tried to talk to her to take her mind off of things. Tyler's fiancée was also a little confused. She thought they would quickly look at the rental place and then eat together at a restaurant. Jordan had the right clothes on for the event. She wore a light brown jumper and well-known brand heels. But Lucy didn't look like herself. She usually dressed very stylishly and glammily, and she wore expensive clothes all the time to show off her wealth. Now she was wearing old leggings and a strange wig. Everything about her looked fishy, and Jordan couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Romano just recently found out that Taylor and she are going to have a baby. She was 13 weeks along now. Their friends knew this. So what happened next was even scarier. Lucy stopped talking in the middle of a sentence, opened the Range Rover's door, and jumped out onto the street. At that very moment, Jordan looked up at the guys and saw Oliver pointing a gun right at Tyler's face. Joking around with Lucy kept Jordan's attention, but her husband had already taken out a gun and was holding Pratt at gunpoint. Olive aimed the gun at the pregnant lady and pulled the trigger several times before she could do anything. The car was hit by the first 2 shots that didn't make it. Jordan put her car in drive right away and tried to get away from the scene. Oliver then shot a 3rd time. It's too bad that this shot hit its mark. It hit her on the left side of the chest. Everything took only seconds to happen. When Oliver did what he did, Tyler, who was only a few meters away, didn't even have time to respond. When the man found out that his friend and partner had just killed his pregnant fiancée, he charged at him. But Oliver was able to turn around and start pulling the trigger without looking. 5 or 6 times he shot at Tyler. Several bullets hit him in the arms and one just missed his head. But the last shot, which was aimed straight at his chest, killed him, and he fell to the ground dead. Oliver and Lucy were friends to Jordan and Tyler while they were pregnant. They put all their faith in them, but it was all a lie. Carafa and Lee took Romano's body out of the Range Rover and left it on the side of the road after this stupid attack. Then they got in their own car and drove off. They planned to make some cash by selling the SUV, so they took the car to a friend's shop to be taken apart and sold for parts, which hid their tracks. The killers then went back to the industrial park, walked past Jordan and Tyler's bodies that were still, and got into the Audi. To avoid being caught, they also took that car to the workshop and had it taken apart for parts. Oliver and Lucy took a cab back to their house. The couple was having a great time. The excitement was going strong. They did the worst possible crime, and there was no way they could be caught. One of the victims was still living, which was the only thing they didn't know. One evening at 7:30 p.m., a truck drove by the building in the industrial park. The driver saw something strange on the ground. He pulled over and went over to see what was making him so interested. A woman lay still in the grass next to the road. She had blood all over her. It's crazy that Jordan was still alive after being shot in the heart. At first, the pain knocked her out, but when she woke up, she kept fighting for life. When the woman was very weak, she told the driver in a whisper that she had been shot and asked him to call an ambulance. The emergency services got to the scene right away. Jordan Romano was taken to the hospital and told she needed surgery. Naturally, when there was a report of a shooting, police were also sent to the scene. Tyler's body was found close, behind the warehouse. Sadly, he died right away after being shot in the chest, and the police were still trying to find the shooters but couldn't because they didn't know who could have done it. After hearing the news, Oliver and Lucy stayed home and watched TV. The wife and husband were proud of how well they went through it. When they sold the 2 cars, they paid off all of their bills at once and made some money. But their happiness was short-lived when the reporter covering the story said that one of the victims had lived but was now in a coma. At that very moment, Oliver and Lucy's joy turned to fear. According to the news, the victim's situation had stabilized, and doctors were hoping that he or she would soon wake up and be able to talk about what happened. This meant that their great plan didn't work. Oliver and Lucy chose to leave for Canada right away. They took a plane to Eastern Europe the very next day after the event. The couple stayed in a hotel in Prague for a few days and then went to Slovakia to see Oliver's parents. At the same time, the police started their probe. The police did everything they could to find the criminals after the crime. First, they looked at data from cell towers. The number could be found thanks to the SIM card Lucy swiped from a friend. The user with that number was at the scene of the crime when a gun was fired. It was easy to find the real owner. The girl who didn't know what was going on had given away her extra SIM card. The police knew she was telling the truth when she said she had given Lucy Lee her extra SIM card. That's how the cops found out about Lucy Lee and her husband Oliver Carafa, who were the first suspects. The next step was to look at video cameras, which showed the couple quickly leaving their flat and going to the airport, which made people even more suspicious. Then pieces of proof started to add up, one after the other. The cameras at the crime scene caught the light-colored wig, parts of Lucy's clothes that were stained with blood, insurance paperwork, and the keys to the white Audi. There was more and more proof against the couple. Jordan Romano woke up 3 days after being in a coma. The girl was shocked and didn't know what had happened to her right away. The sad news had to be told to Jordan by police officers. She had lost both her fiancé and her unborn child. After getting over her shock, Romano did everything she could to remember what happened that terrible day. Oliver, 28 years old, and Lucy, 25 years old, who had left the country, were given an international arrest order. Police say that the couple went to Slovakia to see Karafa's parents and then to the Czech Republic before going missing in Budapest, Hungary. A well-known businesswoman in Canada, Lucy's mother, spoke to the media and said she was shocked, alarmed, and confused by her daughter's participation in this terrible event. The woman told Lucy in public to help the police, but Oliver Karafa's parents had a very different reaction when they found out that their son and daughter-in-law were accused of committing a crime. Some people were paid $250,000 by the boy's father to hide Oliver and Lucy and give them new IDs. The couple of thieves made it to Hungary, where they hid for 2 months until the cops found them. Karafa and Lee were caught and put in a holding cell. Now they have to go through a long process to be sent to Canada. Oliver refused to go back and insisted that he be sent to his home country of Slovakia. Lucy, on the other hand, spent a few days in a Hungarian jail and said it wasn't even a 5-star hotel, so she had to go back to Canada right away. The girl didn't like the hard bed, the clothes she was given, the bland food, or the dull place where she was staying. When the police decided to send Lucy to Canada, Lucy threw a fit over the seat in economy class. Her mother could afford a nice trip for her daughter, so she begged to be able to fly first class. This was the most smug and cocky thing I've ever seen. Lucy refused to say anything when she was questioned at the police station right after being taken from the plane. She said that her mother and lawyer had told her not to talk. Lee must have thought that her mother's money would help her stay out of jail. The girl said with confidence that she wasn't guilty of anything. Oliver was in charge of the money during their union. She didn't want to know how he solved his business issues. Owen and Lucy were given $2.7 million bail. The girl's mother paid the full amount right away, and she was freed until her hearing. Following that, Lucy broke the rules of her bail, so she was arrested again and sent to jail. Oliver, who was finally sent back to Canada, was not even allowed to post bail. He was in jail for 2 years while he waited to be tried. The court case began in April 2024. The test took a little more than a month. Lucy made up a crazy, complicated story about how her husband made her suffer while she was sitting on the dock. She made up all kinds of lies about him to get out of responsibility. Lucy also tried to make up an alibi by saying she spent the whole day with her family, but no one in her family could prove this. Oliver Karafa, her husband and partner, refused to go to court and speak. The judge said that Oliver and Lucy were guilty of all the charges. Both were given sentences of life in jail with the chance of parole after 25 years. Thanks for watching this video. If you're into true crime stories like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. I'll see you in the next one.